Well, a very pleasant good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Good evening, everybody.
I would like to.
Good evening.
Good evening. A pleasant good evening, everyone. Once again, thank you so much for joining us here um, in this continuing learning experience that CBC and the Caribbean Basketball Confederation has hosted and facilitated for the wider basketball community. As you know, it is my pleasure to welcome you all this evening to this third night in the fourth module of the, the last module, fourth of four modules for referees and definitely anyone who's interested in learning more about the game. Tonight, we are going to be finishing a topic that was scheduled to have been covered in the first two nights, but due to very exciting and riveting conversation and learning, we did not make it to this topic in the first two nights. And so we definitely think it's an important topic. It's a point of emphasis for FIBA. And so we definitely want to make sure that you learn and get this up-to-date information. So with that being said, I want to once again welcome you this evening. Thank you for being here. And we will begin the presentation this evening, which is on faking a foul and flopping. Mr. Brown, I see that you have joined us. Is there any administrative matter you wish to address before we begin the presentation? Mr. Brown? Okay.
I'm here. Sorry.
I said, is there any administrative matter you wish to address before we begin the presentation this evening?
For the invite.
Could you repeat that? We didn't get that.
Thank you very much for the invite. Not at this time.
Okay, thank you very much. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we'll go straight into the presentation, which tonight is faking a foul and flopping. You've seen me two nights in a row. I don't know if I need to introduce myself again, but in the event that we have people who haven't seen or heard from me before, once again, my name is Christian Wilmore from the Bahamas. I serve as one of the instructors during this learning seminar, ongoing seminar, virtual seminar, and I am a FIBA International Basketball referee of 8 years with experiences at the elite level, inclusive of 3 World Championships, World Cup qualifier games for senior men, and most recently, AmeriCup qualifier games for senior men. I've been a referee for the last almost 13 years. And so apart from teaching rules, I am able to give you some practical on-court tips that hopefully will help to make you and myself better as a basketball official. Okay, that's enough about me. So, at its very core, the job of any sports official is to ensure fair play while protecting the spirit and integrity of the game. And if you joined us last night, this probably sounds familiar. And that is because last night we had a presentation on the technical foul. If you missed it, it should be uploaded soon. It was a very eventful and educational session. And we started with the same quote. And this is directly from the official basketball rulebook. The job of any sports official is to ensure fair play while protecting the spirit and integrity of the game. And so in this vein, a few years ago, FIBA decided to become very proactive and active in ridding the game of a quote unquote act that sought to blemish the purity and the integrity of the game. And that act is commonly referred to as flopping. So my goal is that at the end of this course, all participants will be able to define a fake and a flop, and there's a slightly different definition between the two terms that we will touch on, that you would be able to identify the characteristics or the signs of when a player is faking or flopping, that you will know and be able to differentiate the three types of fake situations, which we will learn about. And finally, as is the case, if you're a referee, it's not good enough to just know the information, but that hopefully through learning and through video clip analysis, that you would be able to apply the proper fake protocol to each type, each one of the three types of situations. So, as always, we begin with a little bit of the rules. This comes from the Article 36, which is the technical foul from the official basketball rules. It says the proper conduct of the game demands the full and loyal cooperation of the players, head coaches, assistant coaches, substitutes, excluded players, and accompanying delegation members with the referees, table officials, and commissioners if present. We went through this yesterday. What I want to emphasize is the next bullet point, 36.1.2, which says, each team shall do its best to secure victory, but this must be done in the spirit of sportsmanship and fair play. And so what we've really been talking about for the last two nights, broadly speaking, has been about protecting the spirit and integrity of the game of basketball. And so that's what we're continuing with in terms of a theme tonight. Another point I wanted to emphasize is this comes from the duties of the basketball officials. And this is Article 47, and it says, when deciding on a personal contact, the referee shall, in each instance, have regard to and weigh up the following fundamental principles: the spirit and intent of the rules and the need to uphold the integrity of the game. Now, there are more principles than this. I cut this short. It also goes on to list advantage, disadvantage, amongst others. But the one that we're focusing on, because flopping usually involves a contact situation, and so we're really looking at this principle that when you're judging contact, not only do you need to judge if it's an advantage or a disadvantage, but we also are asked to uphold the spirit and intent of the rules, as well as to protect the integrity of the game. So the rule in question for tonight that we'll be looking at is a rather short one, which is Article 36.2.1, Bullet 8. And it says a technical foul is a player non-contact foul of a behavioral nature, including but not limited to fake being fouled. Just to rehash what we covered last night, remember in FIBA basketball, a technical foul can only be assessed when there is no contact. It does not involve contact, generally speaking. It involves behavior, mannerisms, words, reactions, gestures, expressions. And so when we're talking about a fake being foul, we're not talking about situations where there is a foul. We're talking about a behavior which is meant to give the image that a foul has occurred. And we'll talk about what happens if there is contact and there's also a fake. That will come later in the presentation. So let's begin, first of all, by defining a fake. And this is directly from the official basketball rules, Article 33.16, fake being fouled. It says a fake is any action by a player to simulate that he or she has been fouled, or to make theatrical, exaggerated movements in order to create an opinion of being fouled and therefore gaining an advantage. Okay? So, at this time, I'm going to pull up the official FIBA presentation on this topic, and we will go through this issue a little bit more deeply. Let me just clarify, this is the official FIBA presentation. There are some typos here, but I don't have the ability to edit it or change it. Just a disclaimer. So, more thoroughly, fake a foul. Fake is any action by a player. Notice it can be defense or offense to pretend being fouled or to make theatrical, exaggerated movements in order to create an appearance of being fouled and therefore gaining an unfair advantage. So any movement, any expression, any theatrical display which is intended to convince someone that a foul has occurred when in truth a foul has not occurred is deemed to be a fake. And this is unsportsmanlike in nature. It goes against the spirit of sportsmanship and fair play. Special note, what's the difference between a fake and a flop? Well, a flop, even though we refer to them all loosely as flopping, a flop is a special type of the defender's action during a charge block situation, but it is still a fake. So a flop is a special type of fake which happens only by a defender during a charge block situation. And the reason why we differentiate these, because we'll find out even though most flopping happen on charge block situations, as you will see when we look at clips, fakes also happen by the ball handler. They can also happen on screens. They can happen on rebounds. They can happen on any moment of the game where a player creates the impression that a foul has occurred when in truth a foul has not. So as I just said, faking. This normally occurs in charging and screening situations. Referees must know the game, the technical movements and tactics of the players to prevent referees buying a fake. This type of behavior does not fit within the spirit of sportsmanship and fair play, as I have said routinely. And the key here is to clean up the game, clean it early. And what they mean by that, FIBA uses this with many different topics. They'll say this about unsportsmanlike fouls. They'll say this about rough play. They'll say this about fakes. They say clean the game, clean it early. And what this means is, as a referee, we have to be prepared to address and respond to fakes from the jump, from the tip off. Do not permit it to go through the game until the end of the game in the fourth quarter, when you have not addressed the situation, when you have not responded to the situation, and then all of a sudden you make the decision, I am tired of them faking, I am tired of them flopping, but you have not responded to it from the start of the game. And that's what it's referring to here. So it says here, some players try to trick the referees by faking contact caused by an opponent or by maximizing marginal contact. So what they mean here, the difference here is as we learned, there are three types of fakes. And this is referring to two of them, this first bullet point. One is where there is no contact, but the player pretends as if they have been contacted by the opponent. The other one is where there is some contact, small contact, light contact, but they react as if it was heavy contact. So when it says faking contact, that means there was no contact, but they make a reaction to try and persuade the referee usually that some contact occurred. You'll see this a lot with an elbow or something where the player doesn't touch them with the elbow, but they throw their head back to give the impression that they have been struck with the elbow. And then the other one is maximizing marginal contact, where there is some small contact, but the reaction is so much larger than the contact that they received. Okay, and then there's the third situation. Some defensive players without a legal guarding position try to cause contact onto the torso and fall backwards, flopping to draw an offensive foul. And this is referring to situations where the defender is not in a legal, is not playing, is not in a legal, as it says, in a legal defensive position, but they throw themselves usually at the referee and at the opponent, and then throw themselves backwards to try and simulate a offensive foul. Okay. So let's talk about the three types of faking. The first type of faking is referred to as the standard or normal faking. This is the ordinary quote unquote fake that would happen in the game. This is when a player who fakes being fouled but does not generate any illegal contact. So I want to be very clear here. A standard normal faking refers to when a player receives, this is the one where the player receives some marginal contact. So there's some small contact, and then they try to exaggerate this contact into something bigger than it was meant to be. This is what is referred to as standard or normal faking. When this point here says, but does not generate any illegal contact, it's referring to the faker. They throw themselves back, but they didn't interfere with the player who they're faking out. And you'll see why it refers to that when we get to the third type of faking. So let me just reiterate. Standard faking is faking when there is some marginal, what we call marginal, small, light contact, and the player then exaggerates that light contact to be something bigger than it was. So what happens when we see standard or normal faking? The referee will show the fake signal, which we will see later on this PowerPoint and then in the videos as well. The referee will show the fake signal during the game when there is a stopped clock period. So at the next game interruption, when the clock stops and the ball is dead, a warning will then be given to that player as well as his head coach. And this warning then goes as a warning for the entire team, which means if any member of that team, any player on that team commits another fake at any point during the game, then a technical foul will be assessed. And that brings us to point number 2. Any repetition of faking by the same team after the warning is a technical foul. Now notice it makes a small point here. Possible to have 2 fake warnings during the same play without game interruption. And I have a perfect video of this, but I'll try and explain what it means by this. As the procedure is here, when you have a normal fake during the play, so the play is going on in this situation, red 5 is faking. The referee on that play would give the fake signal. He must now wait for a stop clock period and a dead ball to communicate this warning to the player and to the coach. But sometimes the duration between when you give the warning and the next dead ball or stop clock period can be rather long. The teams might be in a flow, in an offensive flow back and forth. And so you can go a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes in severe situations before you actually get a chance where the whistle is blown or there's a timeout or something where you can actually communicate this warning. And what this is saying is, If I give a warning in the game during the live ball, to give the signal, and before I get an opportunity to communicate this warning to the player and to the coach, another fake situation occurs. Even though I was not able to communicate to the player and the coach the warning from the first situation because the game never stopped. When that second situation occurs, a technical foul will be called, because that is why we make the signal on the play. So that is supposed to be an unofficial, official way to communicate to everyone in the game, this play is a flopping situation. And so if that team, whether it's the same player or not, if a member of that team fakes a foul again before I have a chance to communicate that warning to him and the coach, a technical foul will be assessed without warning on that second time. And so that brings us to the third point. Each team is entitled to one warning. So the second type of faking is what we call excessive faking. So the first one was standard or normal faking. This one is excessive faking, and it says a player who fakes excessively. And they try to define excessively. Generally speaking, when we say fake excessively, this is where there is no contact and they create a large theatrical expression where there's no one touches them and they react with a fake. That's what we refer to as excessive, because that's very unsportsmanlike. That's very not in the spirit of sportsmanship. No one touched you at all, and you make this big spectacle as if someone touched you. If they fake excessively, which is defined as without any contact with an opponent, and they don't generate any illegal contact, then notice there's one recourse: a direct technical foul. There's no warning given. There's no signal given. Well, there'll be a signal given, but there's no warning given. A technical foul, the game will be stopped at that exact moment, and a direct technical foul should be issued. And this is in the case of excessive faking. The third type of fake we have is what we refer to as faking and illegal contact. And this is why you kept seeing in the previous two slides where they say the player fakes but does not generate illegal contact. The player fakes excessively but does not generate illegal contact. Because there's a third type of fake. And it says here, if a player fakes, but in the process of them faking, they generate illegal contact, call the foul, meaning call that illegal contact. And I know these pictures are blurry. That's not your screen or my screen. That is actually the way they have the pictures in this presentation. But I have the video that goes to this clip, so you will get a chance to see what we mean by that. It's a situation where the player fakes, but even while faking, they actually fouled the opponent. There was a foul that they committed. And so this is saying if you have a combination of a fake by, in this case, white 5, but even while faking, white 5 actually commits a foul on her opponent, it's saying ignore the fake and call the foul. Why? Because if there is a foul on the play, there cannot be a fake on the same play. And the rationale for that is you cannot have a foul and a fake a foul. It just doesn't make sense, right? So you can't say white 5 fouled the opponent and then say white 5 faked a foul. There was a foul on the play. The foul is on white 5. And so if you call a foul, even though she might have exaggerated or tried to make the appearance that she was the recipient of a foul, while trying to do that, she commits a foul on her opponent, we will just call the foul and ignore the fake. And that's these last two bullet points. If you call a foul, you cannot give a warning. But if you don't call a foul, then you can give a warning. So the take-home principle is you cannot have a foul and a fake on the same play. It's either or. Either it was a foul or it was a fake. You have to decide, but you cannot have both. You cannot call a foul on white 5 and then after you call the foul, give white 5 a warning for the fake. That is against the protocol. You have to make a choice. So that brings us to this. What is the protocol? Well, first of all, we have to know the signal, the fake a foul signal. And this, it's called the raise the lower arm signal, and you do it twice. So it starts from the top. So you actually start it with your hand kind of in front of your face as if you're reading your palm, and you're going to go down once, back up, and down twice, back up. So you do it twice, down once, down twice. And so we call this the raise the lower arm signal. And you're going to do it twice, once down and back up, down again and back up. And so this is the signal for a fake a foul. And every referee needs to be able to do this and add this to his or her repertoire. So what's the protocol? If you have a standard fake, so a standard fake would be the normal fake where the fake occurs and you're going to give a warning. When you see the fake, you're going to give the signal. You do not blow your whistle. There's no stoppage of the game. So in this play, Korea player, so blue 6, commits a fake. In this case, you can refer to it as a flop because this is a block charge situation and the fake is by the defensive player. This is a flop. And you would see that the referee in the center position at the bottom of the screen on the right is giving the fake a foul signal. He is not blowing his whistle. The game is still going on. But while the play is going on, he's going to give the signal twice. That lets the players know, that lets, more importantly, his partners know, and it would let the coaches know if they're paying attention, and even the fans, that a fake a foul warning is coming. And notice that it says in the elite referee will not only give the signal, but will give a verbal support. So that means while they're giving the signal, they're going to say verbally, they have white 8 fake there. In this situation, it would be blue 6 fake. So as you're giving the signal, blue 6 fake. And so that is a communication. And we're going to get into why that is important in a second. So this is the warning during the play. If you have a standard fake, you're going to give the fake a foul signal when you see it, but you won't blow your whistle. You will not stop the game, and you will support that signal with the voice. Blue 6 fake, white 8 fake, whatever number fake. Keep it short and sweet. So as we know, after the standard fake, the protocol is you give the signal during the play, and then when the next stop clock period, now this warning must be communicated to not only the player that committed the fake, but also to the coach. So when there's a stop clock period, the referees, the team of referees will ensure that the warning is committed to the player and the coach. Note, the referee who gave the initial signal on the play does not have to be the one to communicate the warning to both the player and the coach. You can work as a team to keep this game, the speed of the game up, because sometimes, you know, the player might be on one end of the court, but then the coach, the team bench is on another end. And so then you have one referee running to the left to go tell the player. And then after he tells the player, he has to run across the court to the other end to go tell the coach. It takes long. And then we have to wait for him to run all the way back to his position. So this is where the communication, where it has plus the co-officials, if you communicate and in essence by using that verbal support, your partners know that a warning needs to be given, then whoever is closest to that player or to the head coach can give the warning to keep the game flowing. So if Mr. Brown is on the baseline and he gives the fake a warning signal, and I'm the trail official and I happen to be right in front of the coach, and he signals to me, hey, we have a warning, white 8, I'll turn to the coach and say, coach, flopping warning, number 8 of your team, next time, technical foul. And notice that the communication is scripted as well. Even when you are communicating the warning to the player and the coach, so this is when the game is stopped, you will make the signal in front of them, and you will make the technical foul signal, letting them know that the next time they do it, it will be a technical foul. But you're not going to blow the whistle. You will just walk up to the coach or the player, whoever you are responsible for warning, and you will say, if it's the player, you will say, hey, faking warning while doing the signal, faking warning, next time, technical foul. You don't have to call his number because you're talking directly to the player. And the person who goes to the coach will go to the head coach and making the warning signal, the fake or foul warning signal. He or she will say, coach, we have a faking warning number 8 of your team. The next one will result in a technical foul, and you will actually make the technical foul signal in front of the player and the coach. And the reason why we do this is because this now leaves no doubt to anyone who's a part of the game, the commissioner, the table officials, your partners, the team, the fans, the people watching on TV, that a faking warning has been given. So when it happens again and you have to call a technical foul, it will not come as a shock that a technical foul is called, because everyone would have seen the scenario where a player and the head coach was warned that faking had occurred. So this is the protocol when you're communicating it with the player and the coach. So now, what happens when you actually have to call the technical foul? So there's two situations where you will actually call the technical foul on the play directly. The first one is if there is a repeat of the fake, meaning you've already had a warning for a standard fake and now a fake has happened again by that same team. And the other situation is if it's an excessive fake, then you will call a technical foul immediately you will stop the game and call a technical foul. And there's a procedure for this as well. You don't make the technical foul signal immediately. You will stop the clock while blowing the whistle. You will make the raise the lower arm signal, the fake a foul signal, and then you will signal your technical foul. So if you have already given a warning to Team White, and then a member of Team White fakes again, when you see it, you will blow your whistle, hands up, stop the clock, beep, make the signal right there on the play 2 times, and then signal the technical foul. And then you will go on to communicate that to the table. White 8, fake a foul, technical foul, 1 shot. And the same is if it's an excessive foul, which means you might not have had a warning before, because on an excessive fake, you can get a technical foul immediately. If you see an excessive fake, you will immediately blow your whistle with the stop clock signal, the raise the lower arm signal, followed by the technical foul. This is the procedure for calling the technical foul in the game for faking. Stop clock, fake a foul signal, followed by the technical foul signal that communicates to everyone what was called, which is a technical foul ultimately, but why a technical foul was called for faking a foul. Okay? So, what are the signs of faking? How can you identify if a player is faking? One of the signs is that the faker is usually going to look for contact first, because in order to fake a foul, they need to, at least in most cases, they need the player to be close to them. They need it to be somewhat believable. At least a good faker will try to get really close to a player, feel them, feel her or him on them, and then try and exaggerate something that either did not happen at all or make something bigger than it was. So watch the player who is looking for the contact first, going up to the player, the one who is touching the player. Usually that's going to be the one who's going to do the faking. They're usually going to be looking for the contact. So that's one sign of faking. The other sign of faking is the head. And you will see this. The contact, so I know these pictures are blurry, and like I said, it's not my screen or your screen. This is actually how it is in the presentation. On the left, you can see this is a screening situation in which blue 35 has committed a screen against white. Now, this is a still image, so we can't determine if it was a legal screen or not. But what we can determine is that this contact by blue happened on the body or at least on the chest area. But what players like to do when they're trying to fake or make the theatrical exaggeration is they throw the head back. But nobody ever touched their head. If I hit you in your chest, or if I make some contact with your body, your head is not usually going to fling back like that. If your head flings back, usually that means that some contact was made with your head. The other sign that we look for is that when they fall to the floor, to help exaggerate the action, they like to kick their feet up into the air and their hands are already outstretched, ready to catch themselves. Okay, so you see it on the right hand side where this player is trying to fake a foul and one leg is already on the ground, but the other leg is way up in the air, and then the hands are already braced to catch up. And then in addition to that, and I saw you, Ms. Kite, I'll come to you in a second. In addition to that, the jumping off spot, meaning where the contact occurred, the alleged contact occurred, and where the player landed are close to each other. Usually, especially in block charges, if someone hits you, if someone charges over you, a legitimate charge, you are not going to fall in the same place where you're standing. Your landing spot is going to be beyond where you were. So when you see a situation where there's some contact and the player ends up in the same place where the contact occurred, that's a very good sign that they are faking. And I have a clip that will demonstrate that for you. Ms. Kite, you had a question?
Yes. Good night again.
Yes.
My question is, I know in FIBA tournaments and stuff, there are 3 officials, but sometimes at the local tournaments, there are 2 officials.
Right.
The question is, if any table official, if that person notices it was a flop or a fake, can he or she call the referee or bring it to the referee's attention? Well, it's not a foul, but it was a fake instead, or a flop?
Okay, so the short answer to your question is no. We don't advise table officials to call, not for this situation at least, to call referees over and say, in a situation where the referee's already made a call, no, it would be improper to call a referee over and say it wasn't a foul, it was indeed a flop. That's the easy answer. I think more perhaps as we are a team, perhaps I would say this, if you are watching the game as a table official or a commissioner and you're noticing that a player is repeatedly, in your opinion, a player is repeatedly flopping or faking, and maybe the ref isn't reacting to it, or the ref is penalizing the other player, then I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing as a part of the team. Maybe when there's a timeout, I wouldn't stop the game, definitely not. But maybe where there's a timeout, especially if you have a commissioner or something of that sort, to just kind of bring it to the referee's attention, because we are a team, and you can just say just loosely, informally, quietly to the referee, because coaches are usually nearby, and you definitely don't want to involve them in this situation. You can say, hey, we're noticing, and this is just, and you want to be respectful. In my opinion, we're noticing that this particular player is really flopping a lot. We're just bringing it to your attention, and then let it go. Because at the end of the day, the referee on the court will have to make that determination and deal with the situation. But definitely not if the referee is blowing a foul, calling the referee over and saying it is a fake and not a foul, or it's a foul and not a fake, would be very inappropriate, whether it's FIBA or any other level. That's the quick answer to your question. I see we have, sorry, you have something else? No problem. I'm checking the chat and I see we have some questions that I'll try and answer very quickly. Mr. Hanna, Gary Hanna, when the fake foul warning is given to team A player, is this warning valid for both teams, or team B has to get their own warning? In any case in FIBA basketball, the warning only applies for the team to which it was given. Whether it's for faking, whether it's for delaying the game, whether it's for disrespectful communication, if you communicated to the coach of that team, the warning only applies for that particular team. Okay. All right, good. So I think that's all the questions. Oh, Ms. Martindale, thank you so much for joining us. I'm just seeing that you had responded already. Okay. So if we can continue. So other things with the fake, and this is where it becomes really difficult. When there is a foul against the faker, meaning the faker actually did get fouled, but then they react theatrically. And so they're showing you two examples here. If the dribbler extends his arm to create space, it is still an offensive foul. So meaning that just because a player might seek to exaggerate, as long as it's not excessive exaggeration, that they might seek to sell you a call. If they were fouled legitimately, you have to call the foul, right? So this is to say, the player gets pushed. You know it's a pushing foul. But then after the push, they kind of throw their head back. And you say, oh no, I forget about the push. I'm giving you this technical foul for flopping, or I'm giving you for the warning for flopping and ignoring the push. No, a foul is still a foul. That's the point of this slide. If that player was fouled first, and then after maybe they did a little bit of embellishment, you can address that. You call the foul, and then you can say to that player loosely. Remember, you can't have a foul and a warning, so you can't give them an official warning for faking. But you can say to this player informally, and if you were here for our technical foul presentation, this is being proactive. You can say to them, hi, I don't need your help. I don't need you to sell me the call, okay? Because you might do this, and you keep your communication short, but I'm speaking to you as participants, as referees, because you want to tell them this because they might do it when there isn't a foul. And so now you're being proactive, where you're perhaps saving a technical foul further in the game, or saving an official warning later on in the game by taking advantage of the situation where he might have faked a little bit, but there was a foul, and you can say to him, I don't need your help. Please don't try to sell the call, okay? Or watch the faking. And so this is where you can be proactive, tying into our technical foul presentation yesterday. The other one here on the right, it says, if a player steps on the foot and loses his balance, this is not a fake. And so this is a play in which the player was trying to double team this player, and it just so happens that at the same time as the offensive player was driving into this number 22 in the middle of the screen, he stepped on the foot of his teammate. And so what ended up happening in this play is, and I don't have the video of this, but he fell to the floor because he lost his footing. And so it looks like he was trying to fake being fouled by the offensive player when the offensive player was making this spin move towards the middle of the lane. And so the point here is, and we'll mention this later, is also you need to see everything that's going on. Don't just jump to react. You need to know in this situation. And so in this particular play, whereas it looks like a fake to everyone in the gym because no one is looking at his feet, he really didn't fake a foul. He tripped and he fell to the ground. And so we have to be careful. This is not a fake. This is a player who is tripped and fell to the floor. And last but not least, I think this is the final slide. Yes. And I know there's a typo here. Like I said, I cannot edit it. I apologize. Not all contacts are faking. It says not all the movements are faking to be fouled. So in this situation, the defensive player, red, is hit in the face by the offensive player in white. And the reaction seems exaggerated. The hands go up, the head goes back, the feet come up, but in reality, she was hit in the face, right? And her reaction was so strong because she was hit so excessively in her face. And so the point here is that you still, as a referee, before you begin to just give fake warnings and call technical fouling for fakes, you still need to see the entire play, not just the reaction, because if there's an illegal contact here, you have to call it. Even if she tries to sell it a little bit over the top, she was hit in the face, and you cannot permit those fouls to go uncalled. But at the same time, remember that marginal contacts, this is just regular contact, not fouling contact, just people touching each other, because basketball is a quote-unquote contact sport in the sense that players are always touching one another. Marginal contacts are still a part of the game and are legal. Okay, so this is the PowerPoint presentation on faking a foul. Now, at this time, I have a teaching video that I wish to share with you that will help to further emphasize what I just went through. At the end of that video, I will take questions, and then I have a few clips where you will be the referee, and you must decide, is it a standard fake? Is it an excessive fake, or is it an illegal contact with fake? Okay, so let me, as we always do, let me just get the link that I will put into chat for those of you who have issues. Before I do that, an important note on this video, let me just get to it here. On this video, please start the video at the 6-minute and 13-second mark. This is a video that we used yesterday in the technical foul presentation. We stopped at 6:12. Today, we're going to pick up from the 6-minute and 13-second mark, and we're going to watch the video through to the end. So please start at the 6-minute and 13-second mark and watch through to the end. Thank you very much. So let me get the link for you. The link is in the chat. Start at 6:13 and watch to the end, and I will share it on my screen for those who will be watching it that way.
Fake a foul warning. This warning offends players and coaches that a player would never give a theatrical performance to sell a call. From my experience, no coach or player tends to react calmly to a fake a foul warning. It is either met with confusion, questioning, and/or anger. A fake a foul warning is any action by a player to simulate that they have been fouled or make exaggerated movements in order to create an opinion of being fouled and therefore gain an advantage. Both examples shown are talking about the head movement of giving the impression of a foul, which James Harden likes to do with snapping his head back, which results in a warning given. If a warning has already been given, then a technical foul is followed. Fake a foul can be given to offense or defense, with no contact or very minor contact, which results in the defense falling backwards, and followed with a theatrical display. A warning is then given. In this case, one has been given, so a technical foul is then given. Procedure. After a player fakes a foul during live play, the official will signal fake a foul twice by raising and lowering the arm. At the next dead ball, the player and coach shall be warned. Both teams are entitled to one warning each. Next fake that occurs results in a technical foul. In the scenario that there was no opportunity to verbally warn the coach and the player at a dead ball after the first fake a foul warning signal, and any player fakes a foul, a technical foul shall be given. In the case of a fake a foul being committed with no contact and is excessive, you can go straight to a technical foul. Lastly, in the case where a player embellishes contact but does get fouled, you cannot have a fake a foul warning and a foul. Just by the terms alone, it contradicts the term. You cannot fake a foul or create an opinion of a foul when a foul is occurring. In those embellishment cases, call the foul and speak to the player that they do not need to embellish or make a display of the contact. Proactive officiating for game management a topic we will address in the future.
So, do we have any questions? After watching that video, I trust that that helped to kind of bring everything together, or what I tried to share with you in the first 30 minutes going through those presentations. Do we have any questions that anyone wants to answer, or do we all feel comfortable and we can go into looking at some clips and being a referee? All right. Well, you know, they usually say if the students aren't asking questions, either they're completely lost or the teacher's doing a great job. I don't know which one it is now, but I guess we'll find out in a short period of time. Okay, so if there being no questions, I'll just make a little commentary on that video. And I just hope that you realize that there was really those three situations I mentioned. There were situations where players just faked, where there was some marginal contact or no contact, and they faked. And there were also situations where there was a foul and then an exaggeration after the foul. And then there is the situation, I like the clip with LeBron James, where it just was a hard contact. If you just watch him, you know, you probably say, he's selling it a little bit and you miss the play because the head goes back and then he's on the floor and, you know, rolls over and covers his head. But if you watch the entire play, you would have to agree that that's an unsportsmanlike foul. That's excessive contact. And so the point they were trying to get to is all of these things you have to be able to analyze. And the only way you're going to be able to do that consistently and as effectively is you have to see the entire play. Okay, so that's great. So we will move into actually looking at some game clips now. So in these clips, you're going to be making the decision. And so you have three options. You're going to decide, is it a standard fake? Is it an excessive fake? Or is the faker committing illegal contact with faking? So I'm going to be hoping that you would put your reactions in the chat or through the mic, but preferably in the chat, and then we will discuss. So let's go to the first clip. Sorry, it's not this one that I want. Just 1 second. Okay. So I'll be sending the link as per usual into the chat. You can go ahead and watch it. So there you go. And I'll be sharing it on my screen as per usual again.
Rolls. And Roscoe Allen. And it's a defense. Rolls. And Roscoe Allen. And it's a defensive foul, I think.
So go ahead and quickly write your decision. Normal fake, excessive fake, illegal contact with fake. Which one of the three options can we obviously cancel out right away? Which one can we all agree it's most definitely not? Anyone wants to tell the group which of the three options, normal fake, excessive fake, or illegal contact with fake, we can definitely get rid of?
I think we can definitely get rid of excessive fake.
Exactly, right? That is not an excessive fake. One, because there was contact, right? And the reaction was not a big theatrical exaggeration. So we can definitely get rid of the excessive fake. So that leaves us with two options. Was it normal fake or is it illegal contact with fake? So now I want to analyze this clip just a little bit.
Just a quick question, Mr.
Yes.
Teacher.
Yeah, go ahead.
When you say the option that says illegal contact, is that referring to the defense or the offense in terms of the contact?
Well, in this case, when we say illegal contact with fake, we're talking in reference to the faker. So in this case, it would be the defense. Is the defender committing an illegal contact with fake?
Okay, now I understand. Okay, all right.
Yeah. So when we say illegal, so that's a good question. When we talk about illegal contact with fake, we're saying, is the person who is faking, are they faking as well as creating an illegal contact, the faker? So that could be defense or offense, depending who is faking. In this case, it's the defensive player. So now let's analyze this clip. So we have quite a mix. We have quite a few people saying illegal contact with fake, and we have a few people saying normal fake. Ms. Martindale, you said it correctly. But if you are saying it's an illegal contact with fake, you're telling me then the faker has committed an illegal contact. The faker in this case would be the defense. So I want you now to tell me, what is the defense doing wrong from a purely basketball situation? This is a block charge situation. If we take out the issue of the fake, this is a block charge play. What did the defense do wrong for him to have caused an illegal contact? There was contact. But tell me, what was the illegal contact the defender committed in this play?
Is this question open to anyone?
Yes, this is open to anyone. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I think well, I shouldn't say I think, but what I saw, it appears that the defender, he didn't win the position ahead of the offensive player. So thus the onus of the contact was on him.
Okay, so all right. Thank you very much for your contribution, Mr. Alexis. So he said he didn't think the defender won the position. Okay, let's take a
question, observation.
Yes, go ahead.
Based on what I saw, and I think that's why I made the call, is because, again, I guess we covered this, today is Wednesday, I think we covered this on Monday, in that the defense, in establishing his cylinder, did not give the offense adequate time to accomplish one of the three, the dribble, the pass, pivot. So hence, based on what I saw, that's why I made the call, because the offense had already established a cylinder. And so that's the background behind why I made the call.
Okay. All right, so let's just take a quick look at this. So we got a lot of things going on. So we can talk about cylinder principle, and we can talk about block charge, which was a presentation a few modules ago. And then lastly, we'll talk about the floor. So Mr. Morris, you just said he was not stationary. He has 1 foot on the floor and he was moving. First question then, I'll start off with you. Do you have to be stationary to take a charge in FIBA basketball? Anyone was here for the block charge presentation? Does the defender have to be completely stationary?
No, you do not need to be completely stationary.
No, you don't have to be stationary.
No, you do not. The rule says
Stationary to get that block.
The rule says that after you have established the initial legal guarding position, which is both feet on the floor and facing your opponent, you are then permitted to move side to side. The rule book says laterally, which means side to side, and you are permitted to move backwards, but you are not permitted to move towards the offensive player. So let's take a look at this. And I'm sharing my screen, and I'm going to stop this at the key moments. So here is the ball handler, will be ball handler number 5. Here is the going to be defender. Here, I can't see his number here, but he's right here in the middle of the screen. So at this moment here, both feet of the defender are on the floor. He has now established an initial legal guarding position. Both feet on the floor, and he is facing his opponent. Now, Mr. Sterling, to your point, the defensive player must give the offensive player the ability to do 4 things: pass, shoot, dribble, or pivot. Notice the offensive player has already done those things. He has pivoted and he is now beginning his dribble. But that rule does not permit, however, for the offensive player to dribble straight through the defensive player, because I want you to watch the movement of the defensive player. Tell me if he moves towards the offensive player. So here is the initial legal guarding position. I'm going to go ahead a second. Did the defensive player ever move towards the offensive player in this situation? The answer would be no. Now the question comes to the other rule for the block charge is the contact must be on the torso. So now let's go to the other camera angle so that we can actually see where the contact occurs. So this is the other camera angle. So once again, here's the initial legal guarding position. Both feet on the floor, facing the opponent. Now the movement of the defender is side to side, and the contact is on the torso. This contact is in the center of his chest. So to the issue of whether or not this is illegal contact by the defensive player, it is not illegal contact by the defensive player. There is only 2 options here. This is either a charging foul or this is a fake. This can only be those things. The defensive player did not do anything wrong mechanically to create an illegal contact. He established his initial legal guarding position. He moved laterally to the side to maintain that guarding position. Contact was on his torso, so it can only be a charge or a fake. So then the question becomes, is it a fake or is it a charge? And this is not an easy decision, but I submit to you that this play, as close as it looks, is an exaggeration. This is a fake, and I'll tell you why. And I'm going to play it again, and if you want to, you can watch it again. First of all is the angles. The offensive player is dribbling towards the left wing. The defensive player gets the contact, and the direction in which he falls is not consistent with where the contact occurred. That's number 1. Number 2, I am not convinced that this contact was excessive, was enough to cause this type of fall. So if we watch this clip again.
Defensive foul, I think.
You can see that right at the moment that the offensive player contacted him in his torso, he fell. I have this rule, and I think the NBA uses it as well. When you think about a charge, you need to see the offensive player go through the cylinder. So if the defensive player is standing here, you really want to see the offensive player go through the cylinder. If you see offensive player is this hand here. If you see offensive player touch defensive player and defensive player fall down, this is probably a fake. The defensive player felt some contact and then dropped. If a real charge, the offensive player should go through the cylinder of the defensive player. And as Ms. Martindale is indicating, the other thing to look for is look what he does with his hands at the exact moment of contact. The hands are out, ready to catch the fall, and then he actually slides himself further from his landing space and goes about 10 feet beyond where the foul occurred to further try and sell this as an offensive foul. I trust you will watch it again. Okay, let's continue on. The second clip that I want to share with you, and you may disagree with me, but only two options we have: charge or standard fake, but definitely not illegal contact with fake, and definitely not excessive fake. This one does not, those two options do not apply. The second clip we'll take a look at here, and I'll put this in the chat again. You can take a look at, and I will share it on my screen.
Gets it off. Just barely catches the front iron, and Gretter pushing it up. Gretter all the way into the lane, and that's going to be an offensive foul. Beg pardon, thought that was going to be an offensive foul on Gretter, and Gretter holding her arm as she comes up.
It's a technical foul on Silva for the flop. If I caught that correctly, yeah, it is. A technical foul on Silva for the flop.
Oh, and you see Gretter's left arm underneath, landing awkwardly. Yeah, Silva started to fall before Gretter even made contact.
I don't know if there's a warning or there was a warning before, but Adriana Silva from Brazil not letting one more pass from Silva. She called the tech right away.
Well, that's good. Gretter appears to be okay. She just wiped off that arm. Gretter hits the free throw. Just the fourth point of the quarter.
So what say we about this play? Just give me 1 second, ladies and gentlemen. I just need to get some additional light here. Okay, what are our thoughts on this clip? Standard fake, excessive fake, illegal contact with fake. Anybody else before we weigh in here? Anybody else has a point of view on this particular play? Okay, so we're getting a lot of answers. I'm happy to see that. Okay, so we got quite a few. So yeah, so most of you are right. This is an example of an illegal contact with a fake. This is a blocking foul. And if you look closely, you would have actually seen this in the presentation. I'll show it to you rather quickly. This was a part of the presentation. This is the exact picture from the moment of contact here. This is the moment when the contact occurs. Yes, the player fakes, but this is a blocking foul. Contact is not on the torso. Contact is on the shoulder and on the legs. She did not get to this position in time. This is a blocking foul. And then on top of it being a blocking foul, she definitely was leaning early to try and flop this situation. So this is what we're talking about when we say illegal contact and fake. And so if this is an illegal contact and fake, what should the decision of the referee have been? Let's see who's been really paying attention. So in that play, what should the decision have been? Right, Ms. Wells, the referee should have called a blocking foul and then done what? And then what could the referee have done on top of the elite referee? What will the elite referee do on top of calling the block? The elite referee will say something to that player. Hey, you're leaning early. Not an official warning, but an unofficial warning, right? You can't remember, just to be clear, you can't have an official warning and a foul. But you go to the player and you say, look, you're leaning early. That can be deemed a flop. And later in the game, that can cause you a technical foul. Don't say it will. Be very careful with giving definitive words, right? Because if they haven't had an official warning as a team before and she does it again, then the first time that will be, if she does it again, then that would be the official warning. But you're trying to get ahead. If I tell her now, then maybe she won't do it again. This is called being proactive. So you say, hey, you were leaning early on that play, you were flopping on that play, but it was a foul, you got lucky. Please try to not exaggerate the contact. And so you just you and the player, nothing said to the coach. This is just a conversation between you and that player informally, one-on-one, to try and be proactive to prevent the official warning or a technical foul later on in the game. Okay, so let's take a look at another play. There is the link. Examine that one.
He has really stepped up in this third quarter with hitting threes again, but he's getting, oh, that.
It's good to do games with you.
Oh, look at that! Look at that! Look at that! Come on, that's a flat. He has really stepped up in this third quarter with hitting threes again, but he's getting, oh, that.
It's good to do games with you.
Oh, look at that! Look at that! Look at that! Come on, that's a flat.
What say you on this play? Normal, remember our three options are normal, excessive, illegal contact with fake.
This is just like the video clip that you showed with I think it was the young lady, hands extended going back already, 1 foot on the ground, one up in the air. So it has all the attributes of excessive.
All right, so I don't think we have to discuss this one quite much. This is an excessive fake. This is the situation where you will call a technical foul immediately. Start the game with the stop clock signal, fake a foul warning, followed by technical foul. What's interesting about this one, and this is why I always say the rule book is not black and white, is remember when I defined excessive fake, I said usually there's no contact. But in this play, there was some contact. The offensive player did put a forearm on the defensive player, but definitely it didn't cause that reaction. And then his theatrical exaggerations were so severe that this warrants a technical foul immediately. Now, I don't know if you guys saw what the referee actually called. She called an offensive foul in that situation. And this play was one of the first plays FIBA started using when they added that rule about fake a foul into the rule book. This play has been circulating for a while as the gold standard, I should say, of what is an excessive fake. Okay, so don't seem like there's too much confusion on that one. So we'll move right to the next one, and I think we're getting better. And practice makes perfect. Take a look at this one.
española, ataca Ricky Rubio. Recibe Sergio, la pide Marc en el poste. Marc intenta levantar el balón, no puede y además comete falta en ataque.
Se ha tratado de equilibrarse, su hombre se ha quedado, ha ganado la posición y en cuanto ha habido contacto, pues a la espalda, ¿no? Directamente.
Sí, claro, ahí
a caer de espaldas.
Zagorac pues dio un pasito adelante cuando intentó hacer el reverso Marc y cuando vi que no podía anotar y volvió sobre su paso se encontró al jugador esloveno.
Selección española, ataca Ricky Rubio. Recibe Sergio, la pide Marc en el poste. Marc intenta levantar el balón, no puede y además comete falta en ataque.
Se ha tratado de equilibrarse, su hombre se ha quedado, ha ganado la posición y en cuanto ha habido contacto, pues a la espalda, ¿no? Directamente.
Sí, claro, ahí
a caer de espaldas.
Zagorac pues dio un pasito adelante cuando intentó hacer el reverso Marc y cuando vi que no podía anotar y volvió sobre su paso se encontró al jugador esloveno.
So what say you on that play?
Well, the first point is wrong call by the official.
All right. You can start there. Standard fake, excessive fake, illegal contact with fake. What says you? What say you?
I think that was an illegal contact with fake because he was actually still moving forward. So
Okay.
to Marc Gasol, and then he flopped.
Okay.
He threw himself back and he didn't get hit.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. So you say illegal contact with fake. Okay. So go ahead.
Excuse me. I also believe it's illegal contact with a fake because if you look at the defensive player, he's constantly moving forward, entering the offensive player's cylinder. So yeah.
Okay.
And contact was minuscule by Marc Gasol as well.
Okay. So 2 illegal contacts with fake. There's someone else trying to contribute? I'm hearing something.
Yes, that was a flop. That was that was the first one.
The standard fake.
That was the standard fake.
Okay.
Yes, contact was made, but after contact had stopped, he had enough time to be remaining standard. He just dropped back.
Okay. So we have
the contact he had, the fake came way after.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I agree. I believe it was contact, but then that was a flop afterwards because it wasn't one movement.
It wasn't simultaneously.
Yeah, it wasn't immediate.
Okay, it wasn't simultaneous. Okay, so there was one and then there was like a break in the play and then he came again and then he dropped. Okay, I got you. All right, so we have 2 versus 2. We have 2 people who say legal contact with fake and we have 2 who say standard fake, and I guess we have a whole lot of people who are not sure. Because on the last one, we got a lot of responses. The chat is quiet on this one. So I will say this. This is a standard fake. But having said that, I understand why people would say this is illegal contact with fake. Because we just learned 2 days ago that with the new rule, the defender must allow the offensive player to pivot. And that's what the offensive player was trying to do. He was trying to pivot. And when he tried to swing the ball through, like Mr., I hope I pronounced this right, Mr. Peter said, when he came, he was moving forward towards the offensive player, and he came into his cylinder, preventing him from pivot. My only point I would say now, for those who say it was an illegal contact with fake, let's think about what the different approaches are. If you are saying it's illegal contact with fake, you're saying then that a foul should have been called, because that's what happens. If there's an illegal contact with fake, you're going to call a foul. If it's a standard fake, you're going to get a warning, or if a warning has been given, you're going to get a technical foul. my question to you being, even though I agree with what you said, in this particular situation, when he was coming up towards the offensive player and the offensive player was trying to pivot, was that contact sufficient that you would have blown a foul on that play? We're talking about before the fake. Would you have called a foul at that moment?
No.
No, right. So this is why I say I agree with you in the sense that I understand your point of view. I agree. He was moving forward. He was not in a legal guarding position. He was in the cylinder of the offensive player who was trying to pivot. However, it was not illegal contact to the extent that we're going to call a foul on that contact. If nothing else had happened, we would have allowed this play to continue. So the only thing here, therefore, after that is standard fake. And what I'm trying to get you, everyone, to understand is that, yeah, we have these three: standard fake, excessive fake, illegal contact with fake, and they're very well defined by FIBA. But when you're in the game, it's not so black and white. The game of basketball, as I said yesterday, is not black and white. And the only way you get really good at these, honestly, is experience. And the more you referee and analyze clips, the more you see it, because I can promise you, if you guys see that in your game tomorrow, you will not be fooled by it because your brain has already registered that. So the more you come into these seminars and you see these clips and you analyze these clips and you analyze your own games, if you have recordings of situations where these things happen, you mentally train your mind. So when you see it again, you know, okay, yes, the defender was moving forward, but it wasn't enough for a foul. Therefore, I'm going to give the fake a foul warning. If one is already given, it's going to be a technical foul for repetition. It sounds like a lot, but you know, as referees, we make these decisions in a split second. Okay, let's keep moving. We're doing good on time here. I have one more, I think. Okay, no, I have two more on this, and then I have one more thing I want to show you, and that'll be it. Yes, as Ms. Martindale is saying, we're talking about psychology of refereeing, right? In a big men's game like that, two post players, you're not going to blow a foul when one crowds the other like that. You're going to let that play develop and allow the foul to show itself. And then you're going to blow, okay, foul. Okay, if that offensive player then tried to dribble or something like that, and he was still coming forward, then sure, foul. But in that particular moment, I don't think anyone was going to call a foul. And so for that reason, that's not an illegal contact with a fake. So let's look at this play. I like this one. I can't wait to hear what you say about this. And I will show it on my screen again. Take a look at this play.
That's plenty of experience and season. Hegwood going to the floor, perhaps a little easily. And this is a three-point shot from Cotton. Hegwood. That's the last thing you want, Brad, at this time of the game.
Oh, it certainly is. Again, I don't understand. It's not worth the risk taking a flop, in my opinion. You play straight up, you've got a better chance of getting the ball back. You know, we're down 3 points, minute 33, we've just got a technical foul.
Cats have had plenty of experience in season. Hegwood going to the floor, perhaps a little easily. And this is a three-point shot from Cotton. Hegwood. That's the last thing you want, Brad.
I apologize for the language in the video that might have came through. I actually didn't pick up on that earlier. But in any event, what say you? Normal, standard fake, excessive faking, illegal contact with foul. Or maybe someone thinks it's an offensive foul. I'm not sure. So what are you going to say on this play? So Mr. Lewis is saying this is a normal fake. Anybody have a different point of view?
Illegal contact.
Illegal contact by the defensive player?
Yes, and he should have been called for it and not given a verbal warning.
Okay, why do you say illegal contact?
Because he threw himself forward into the man but and caused him to fall down. So
Okay.
he put the player at a disadvantage.
When the
So
player
he should-
started to trip, you mean?
Yeah, after throwing his body, flinging his body into it, the offensive player.
Okay, I got you.
So that's illegal. That's illegal blocking. Cost accident.
Okay.
It should have been a foul, and he should have got a verbal warning unofficially.
Okay, I got you. I got you. So, well, let me just check if anyone else has a different point of view before we go to this. No one else has anything to say about this? So I have to admit to you, and this is where refereeing becomes difficult. When Ms. Martindale and I analyzed this clip about 2 or 3 days ago, I identified this clip as a standard fake. He didn't take the contact, he felt the contact, and then he threw himself back. But I must say, Mr. Strawn, when I watched the clip again today, I can also agree with you in the sense that with him faking, even though he had a legal guarding position, after he threw himself back, if you watch it carefully, the right knee impedes the progress of the offensive player to the point that the offensive player begins to trip and stumble, which puts him at a disadvantage. And so I can really honestly say that I can see a rationale for both situations here, where if you call a normal warning, a normal fake, I would understand. But I do agree with you, Mrs. Strawn, to an extent that with when he faked now, after he had a legal position, but after he threw himself to the floor, his leg now causes impedes the progress of the offensive player, creating a blocking foul. And so this is a very good clip where we as referees have to manage this gray area, where at first it's like, okay, this is a standard fake, but now as he's going to the floor, the leg now that he's thrown out impedes the progress of the offensive player. And I think it would be appropriate, Mrs. Strawn, here to call a blocking foul. So I do agree with you. And like I said, when I watched this 2-3 days ago, I said standard fake. When I watched it again today, I saw exactly what you saw. And I said, you know, a foul should be called there because he is impeding the movement of the offensive player after the fall. He had a legal position, no doubt about it. He was 2 feet on the floor, he was stationary, but when he threw himself back, then his legs impeded the movement of the offensive player, who now tried to dribble around him and causing him to stumble. And so to not call anything in this situation would have been dangerous. I think the good thing is, in this situation, either this team had already had a warning, or I assume so. They called the technical foul immediately. So it ended up not being so bad because, you know, the offense is going to get the ball back because he had the ball when the technical foul was called. So that I think that would have been fine here in this situation. But to just call a warning and now the offensive player starts to stumble to the floor if they didn't call the technical foul, I think would have been a tricky situation. I only want to say one more thing, and this is where it comes to processing the whole play. Watch the video again, just the beginning, and watch the action of the lead referee. When he blows the whistle, his right arm begins to come up to call an offensive foul. And then, after he sees what happens, he stops himself, and then he has to call a technical foul because he's already blown the whistle. I don't know if anybody picked up on that. Check the lead referee. Because he anticipated a charge, he blew his hand and he's ready to make the charge signal. And then thankfully, he realizes, oh my goodness, this is not a charge. I've already blown the whistle. What to do? And so now he has to call something, but he can't call a charge. So he calls a technical foul for the flop. So I don't know if this team had a warning or not, but he had to come up with something. And so he went with the technical foul. This is one of those situations where we tell you to anticipate the play. Anticipate the type of play that's going to occur. It's going to be a block charge, but do not anticipate the call. Don't say it's going to be a charge. We're going to have a block charge here. We're going to have a layup here. You can anticipate what the play will be, but please do not anticipate your call because you get caught in the middle like this. So Ms. Wells says, in a situation like that, should be judged the first action. Example, the flop happens before a trip of the offensive player. So generally speaking, you want to judge the first action. But I would say this, going back to my point, Ms. Wells. Let's just say this is the first fake for the game, the first flop for the game. And you're going to give a flopping warning. But then when as the play, because remember, when you give the flopping warning, you're not stopping the play. So the play is going to continue. So this is what I'm saying. If in this situation you didn't call anything and you're going to give the flopping warning, and while you're going to give this flopping warning, now a foul occurs, a blocking foul, can you just let it go? Remember, the offensive player is now falling down. So in that situation, and this is a gray area, there's no policy for this. I think it would be best if they hadn't gotten a warning before, I would call the blocking foul and ignore the warning for the flop. Even if I had made the signal and I called the foul, I would not communicate that warning to the player or the coach. I would not make it an official warning. I would just call the block. But if this team had already received a warning for flopping, then you can just get away with calling the technical foul because now the game is going to stop and you have a chance to stop the play, penalize the defensive player, and the game can run on smoothly. So this is where experience and kind of knowing what's best for the game, you have to decide. But what we can agree is what would not be good for the game is to not call anything. The defensive player flops to the floor. The offensive player falls down to the ground and no whistle. Someone caused the contact, and in that case, we have to make a decision. So as Ms. Martindale is saying, in that case, if you watch the whole play, the start, the middle, and the end of the play, you probably come out with the right situation at the end. You go to give the flop warning, and then you see, oh, no, I have a foul. But if you don't rush to give the warning and you watch the whole play develop, you'll probably say, okay, I was going to give a flop warning, but now, beep, I call a blocking foul. It was a flop, your flop became a foul. Okay, so let's get to the last clip for your decision making. And then I have some fun stuff I just wanted to quickly show you. Okay. This is the unique situation. I want to know how you would officiate this situation, referees. The link is in the chat. No, this.
Strong national program, and they don't know each other. Otherwise, they will be a force to reckon with. National program, and they don't know each other. Otherwise, they will be a force to reckon with.
So who can remember from the presentation, how should we deal with that particular play situation? Anyone wants to walk me through that? That's the unique situation. Who feels comfortable to walk us as a group through what should happen there? First of all, can we all agree? Is that standard fake, excessive fake, illegal contact with fake? What say you? Come on, people. You're the referee. You're on the court. You have a decision. You have three options: standard fake, excessive fake, illegal contact with fake. You cannot call anything. You have to call something. So what are you going to call? If you see that in your game, what is that?
Normal fake.
Normal fake. Who said excessive? Someone said excessive? Mr. Alexis,
Yeah,
you
I
said excessive? Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. Okay, so Mr. Alexis says excessive. Everyone in the chat is saying normal fake in the interest of time. Those are what we would call normal fakes. That's not on the same level as the excessive fake we saw with the Puerto Rican player, where he's throwing his hands up and throwing himself to the ground. This player, he's really only doing one thing. He's throwing his head back as if, you know, and no one's touching him in his head, but he's flinging his head back. But my question is, this is the play, and if I can just show this to you again, you remember I told you in the lesson, if you have two fakes in the same running time period, on the second one, a technical foul should be given. What do I mean by that? When this player faked the first time, so just to go quickly.
National program, and they don't know each other.
Here, on the first fake, a referee should have given a foul warning. Here, this is the first fake.
Otherwise,
now, here is the second fake. When you have a situation where a player or a teammate on one team fake two times within the same clock period, so you haven't gotten a chance to communicate that warning to him or to his head coach, the rule there is fake signal once on the first fake. When he fake again, beep, stop the clock, fake signal, technical foul. In this particular instance, he did it twice on the same play. You wouldn't have had a chance to warn him because there was no stop clock period. So on the first one, you should have given a signal warning. When he did it the second time, a whistle should have been blown, a signal warning, and then a technical foul. Now, I know you don't see any a signal warning there. I think when this clip was taken, that rule did not exist back in those days. And so that's why not. But now moving forward, this is when I was talking about if you give a warning, the signal, not the official warning. If you give a signal during the game is still playing on, and before you get a chance to communicate that warning to a player or a coach, and a member of that team commits a fake again, on that second time, you will stop the game and give the technical foul directly, even though you did not have a chance to communicate that official warning through to the player and to the coach. Okay? All right. Mr. Brown, if I may, I just want to, before we end, I just want to show them a very unique situation, and then I'm done. So those are all regular fakes, but what happens when you have a fake by the player in the act of shooting is the question now. So these are going to be plays where a player who is shooting the basketball is actually going to make a fake. And the question then is, what do we do in that situation? So I'm going to hopefully if everything works well. Okay, I want to just show this to you very, very quickly. Take a look at that for me, please. So you'll see here.
Of getting into the paint, kicks it back. They've still got plenty of time. Pavlychevich the three, and they want a foul on the three-point shot. They're not going to get it. Now, what's the call here? Is there going to be a technical? It certainly looked to me as though Nikola Pavlychevich was caught as he took the shot on. He was right next to the official and was clearly frustrated. And we've got a technical called. I assume it was on Pavlychevich. On the three-point shot. They're not going to get it. Now, what's the call here? Is there going to be three? And they want a foul on the three-point back. They've still got plenty of time. It back. Still got.
I'm just going to stop the clip right here. If everyone can just look at my screen. And if you look very carefully, what I'm trying to show you is look at the right foot of the shooter. The defensive player tried to jump past him from left to right across his body. He extends this right foot out of his cylinder to create a contact with the defensive player, and then he goes to the floor as if he has been fouled. This is another example of a foul, and that is why he was assessed a technical foul. He extended his right leg to cause some marginal contact with the defender who's trying to jump past him, and then he threw himself to the ground, and that is why a technical foul was given. I'll show you quickly an example of an excessive fake in the act of shooting, and this is actually from a game that I worked a few months ago, and I was able to not get the clip, but only the highlight video. So with this clip here, we're only watching 14 seconds of it, the 135 mark to the 149-second mark. Only 14 seconds of this clip you need to watch. So go to the 135 mark and watch to the 149 mark. Oh, sorry, I forgot. I'm supposed to share this for those these people who are watching it on my screen. My apologies. I'll share it right now.
Yes, please.
My apologies. I was watching it. I completely forgot about you people. Okay, here we go. So this is the clip. It'll start at the 135 mark, 135, 135, right here. Okay. Take a look at this.
As at the World Cup qualifiers, averaged about 6 points per game. So the 13 somewhat unexpected. Oh, no foul, but a three-pointer knocked down by Montero. And then Montero with the answer. I guess he did just kick his feet out and land a long distance.
I'll play it again.
As at the World Cup qualifiers, averaged about 6 points per game. So the 13 somewhat unexpected. Oh, no foul, but a three-pointer knocked down by Montero. And then Montero with the answer. I guess he did just kick his feet out and land a long distance as Bell Haynes loses the ball.
Just in the interest of time, that is an excessive. Thank you, Mr. Sterling. That is an excessive fake. The defender never touched him. Absolutely never touched him. I was refereeing that game. I was on the baseline, though. I didn't quite know what happened, but I knew something happened. And the defender ran towards him and stopped, never actually made contact with him. And he just threw himself on the floor to simulate that he had been fouled. That should have been an automatic technical foul in that say. So I'm showing you these so that you can see that you can also have fake fouls by a shooter in the act of shooting as well. And so I just want to give you the full instruction on that. Okay. The last thing I will show you, and this is it. I have already skipped some videos. This is the last one, is just a little bit of psychology for the referees. And this is just a warning of what happens when you program your mind to think that a player is a faker. We all have players who carry with them some preconceived notions. And in this clip, you're going to see that this player has already garnered a reputation for being a faker, and that can be very dangerous as a referee if you approach a game that way. You can take a quick look at this, and I will call it a good night after that.
Three-point line to Wagstaff. Ross will go in there again. Ellis up against Knight.
That's a tech? Do you call it tech?
Did he go for a flopping?
Wow.
It was a flopping.
Don't you get a warning?
No warnings. Nugent gets the 10 for a flop. So it'll be a shot for Jermaine Beal and possession for the Wildcats.
It is a flop, no doubt about that.
Handy cameo roll at the point for him. Navian Mual in against Magin.
That's it for him.
That's it for him if it's a tick. It is a flopping tick, Steve. A second for the game.
Yeah, he did kind of extend that arm a bit, so I thought.
So if you get two, you're off.
And so I just want to give some commentary on that. You remember yesterday I said to you, please do not wear Mr. Technical Foul across your shirt. Do not go into any basketball game looking now for flops to call a technical foul on. Huh? This is the danger. The first one was a flop. I don't think it was excessive. It was a standard fake. That was in the first quarter of the game. I don't know if a warning had already been given. They gave a technical foul immediately. Now we come towards the beginning of the fourth quarter. In my opinion, it was an offensive foul. Maybe he embellished a little bit, but they now have in their head that this guy is a flopper. And immediately, without the play developing, the play is still going on, the referee comes right out, beep, technical foul. And now this young man is disqualified from the game. This is when I talk about psychology of officiating and approaching the game with a service mindset. Do not wear Mr. Technical Foul across your shirt. This is a good example of what can go wrong when people go in trying to be black and white and just go in with that pure law enforcement mentality and not that service mentality. You end up with this sort of situation where everyone technical foul, technical foul, and then you end up creating a bigger problem, because yes, he was flopping, but now you have just taken this coach's player out of the game. If in some leagues he might be suspended for the next game because he was disqualified from the game, and so you've rather made a quote unquote minor problem into a big problem because you are not in tune with the game. And so that is the point that I really wanted to make. And that brings me to the end of the presentation. And I have these tips here to avoid, I think it's only 4 of them here, to avoid being faked out as a referee. And you probably would have picked up on it. Referee the defense. Identify the player who is looking for the contact. You especially saw that in the play where the player faked twice in the same play. He kept walking up towards the ball handler and then throwing his head back. Walking up towards the ball handler and then throwing his head back. Watch the head and legs. And last but not least, clean the game early. If you respond to the fake situations from the beginning of the game, the second half of the game will be much easier because the players know 2 technical fouls and you're gone. And so if you have to call one early in the game to clean up the game, you probably will not have to call any more at the end of the game. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for spending this time with me. I hope that this was educational for you, and I appreciate your patience. Thank you very much.